What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Just took the dogs on a little walk. River's just relaxing there, and I am sweating my ass off. I just went on a run, took the dogs on a walk, took a shower. It's 5:22. My 5:10 game is at 6 o'clock. I got to head to Seminole Casino, Coconut Creek. Gonna bring you guys along there with me. All right, finally got some air conditioning, no longer sweating. 5:51. Traffic down here in Florida, just always tough. It's also very hot here. It's almost November. It's 82 degrees, almost November. So a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I played at the Hard Rock. I said I was going on an insane upswing. I had probably the biggest upswing of my poker career, over 100K over a couple months. Started in June. Well, unfortunately, the tides have turned a little bit. I am now currently down $27,000 this month. This month of October, I'm down $27,000 playing poker. Last night, in another game, I lost $10,000. $7,000 I lost in the last two hands of the night. It was pretty disgusting. I lost pocket jacks to 10-8 suited on a 10-high board. He hit a 10 on the turn. And then I lost a set versus an overpair when he went runner straight. So yeah, $10,000 loss yesterday. The only good thing is that today's game is going to be action-packed, a lot of fun players ready to gamble, a lot of deep stacks, so it should be good. We will hopefully get our money back. Not sweating anymore, going to be right on time. Let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. This video is going to be a two-part poker vlog. 5-10 no limit on a Thursday night, and then 10-25-50 no limit on a Saturday night. Starting off here, 5-10 under the gun raises to 30, big blind re-raises to 100, and I peel back pocket queens. An easy 4-bet spot given the fact that we're only 6-handed to start here. I make it 300, and the big blind makes a snap call. Go into the flop here, pocket queens, 4-bet pot in position to jack, 2-3 rainbow. The only hand I'm really expecting to lose from on this board is pocket jacks. However, it is possible my opponent could be slow playing pocket aces or pocket kings, but I'm going to bet a sizing that I think he'll call with all of his jacks and all of his pocket pairs as well. I make it 450 and the big blind makes the call. Turn card is an 8 in a 4-bet pot with pocket queens. Could check for pot control, but his stack size is around the size of the pot, so I just announce all in. He snap folds and we win the first pot. I'm definitely not studying my opponents for live tells, but I did observe something in this next hand where I raised to $100 with pocket queens. The player to my left looks like he's going to re-raise, pauses, hesitates, and then just calls. I make somewhat of a mental note on that it's possible he could be slow playing a big hand, something like jacks, kings, aces, ace-king. Button calls, big blind calls, and one of the limper makes the call. So we're super multi-way to a jack-high board. I do flop an overpair, but so multi-way, it's definitely possible one of my opponents could have out-flopped me here. When the limper leads out for 225, my hand is way too strong to fold. I think multi-way, it would be a little bit too aggressive to raise with all these players left behind, so I just make the call for 225. The player who hesitated to just call pre-flop makes the call as well, and the big blind makes the call. This pot is brewing up here. A lot of money in the middle to the king on the turn. Obviously not a fan of this card. An overcard to my pair brings in hands like queen 10 for straights, king jack, king 9. Limper now checks, who bet out on the flop. I'm not going to be betting here. I check. Cutoff player now puts out a bet of $600. I did already have a suspicion that this player had a big hand, and now that suspicion has come into a reality. $600 on the turn here into all these players. I feel like he's probably got a monster, a king, two pair, a set, even a straight. It actually went through my head for a second of maybe turning my hand into a bluff, given the fact that I do double block queen 10 for the nuts. I mean, it's pretty hard to have the nuts when I have two queens in my hand. However, my opponent bets $600 with around $2,500 behind. Just don't think he's folding any two pairs or sets if I jam all in. So I decided to just take the low variance route. I'm not going to try to hero call here. And I make the fold with pocket queens. I would bluff.
I had a crazy hand. I decided to get super tricky.
Oh my god. You're ahead, yeah.
I know.
I have 10-8. Open-ended on the flop.
I decided to get
Good
very
move.
tricky with it.
After folding, my opponent chose pocket aces. Holy shit. What a sick one there. Aces versus queens, and we only lost a couple $100. I would say that is some run good for sure. Going a little deeper here on live tells, poker is a game of observation, so you should always be paying attention to your opponents. However, I do not condone the stare down technique, somewhat of what you see in the live high stakes tournaments where people are just staring at each other, trying to intimidate each other, or trying to pick up small little live tells. I feel like that's terrible for the game, especially in a fun, friendly cash game. If you're super late stages of a tournament, okay, I guess I could see it. But I would say if you're playing 1-2 or 2-5 no limit, staring down your opponent trying to intimidate them or pick up any little slight live tells is just pretty bad for the game. I don't want to see any of you guys doing that out there in the public games. What's not bad for the game, however, is this NYY Steakhouse cheesecake that I got delivered tableside. Every single week, we order some food to the table. It's looking pretty good today. Let's move on to the next hand. Cutoff raises to 60. Low jack player calls 60. Pocket queens on the button. 3 times queens for me. We won one. We lost one. Let's see how we do this time. I make it $300 to go. Early position player and late position player makes the call. 3 ways to 776. Action checks to me. I bet $350. Only the cutoff makes the call. Turn cards at 10. Brings in 8, 9. I also think it's somewhat hard to get called by worse hands for 3 streets, so I decided to check back this turn. River card 6, my opponent checks again.
You want to get value out of these 9s, huh? That's what you want to get. You want to get value out of these fucking 9s.
He hasn't folded yet. This video is going to get another 130,000 views just because
I guess Steve's not raising.
I think this time he has it. It'll be the one time he is ace king or something. Oh, for real? No, I think he's got a pocket pair. He's got a pocket pair, ace queen, ace king.
pick one.
Button is good.
Well, I read the situation right that my opponent did have a pocket pair that could call. However, I get somewhat owned when he makes a great fold with pocket 9s, thinking that I have a bigger overpair. I ask him to pick one card so he can see, and he then proceeds to pick both cards to look at. Either way, we take this one down. It's a few hours into the game, stacks are looking deep, table is full, and so far I've just been chugging along. I'm up a few $1,000s before there's a raise to 75, 2 calls, and I've got ace-king suited in late position. I bump it to 375, and I get a ton of action here when 2 players make the call. Ace, queen, 5 with 2 spades. Both of my opponents check over to me in a fairly large 3-bet pot with top pair, top kicker. I'm obviously going to bet, but I don't think betting super big on this board is good. I want to bet a sizing that almost all hands can call with. All gut shots, straight draws, all queen X hands, all ace X hands. Even maybe some unbelieving pocket pairs could call a bet, so I just make it $300. Early position raiser makes the call, and middle position player makes to fold. Heads up now to the turn, which is an offsuit 6. He checks over to me for a second time, and I'm going to continue to bet, trying to get called by hands like ace-jack, ace-10. I make it $1,100 to go. Sad to complain and they get it. Steve, you can't look at my cards, buddy. You have an advantage now over the other guys.
I know how you play. I don't watch your streams to know how you play. 35? Thank you.
This next hand, we're going to pick up the action on the turn. I raised pocket 3s out of the small blind. Big blind and straddle called. Flop check through on king, jack, 5. Turn 3, giving me bottom set and adding 2 flush draws. I bet out $225 and now get raised to $600. I'm trying to figure out what my opponent can have after just calling pre-flop and then just checking the flop. I'm not going to fold my bottom set, but I think a re-raise might be a little bit of an overplayer given the fact that we're around $6,000 deep. So I just make the call, and the final card is the 8 of clubs. Does not pair the board. Backdoor flush gets there. I check over to him, and he fires out a $900 bet. I got you. I didn't think you would check that on the flop.
What?
I didn't think you would check that on the flop. I just snap call this bet without really thinking, and I get shown the one hand that I probably could have gotten value from have I re-raised on the turn or the river. King Jack for top 2 pair. A little tilting there. I definitely could have got a little bit more out of this pot. However, backdoor clubs got there. He has the king of clubs. He could have easily made a backdoor king high flush. I think after betting the pot on the turn and getting raised and then facing a big bet on this river, I think a call is fine with bottom set. Either way, we take down a nice pot. So far, so good. I'm up around $4,000 on the night. Just picking up some hands, winning some decent to medium-sized pots. The next hour or so, I somewhat bleed out another $1,500 before getting king 6 suited on the button. It's pretty late now, around 3 o'clock in the morning. I raise here to $100 over a limp and flop a pair and a flush draw on an ace-high board. The under-the-gun player who limp called pre-flop leads into me for $175. I just make the call, the big blind folds, heads up to a 6 on the turn, giving me trips with a king kicker and the nut flush draw. My opponent checks to me. I think it's very likely he's got an ace-x holding, so I'm going to bet, but not too big. Just a medium sizing here. I make it $225. Back over now to the under-the-gun player. I'm expecting him to fold or call, but neither of those options happen when he reaches now for some black chips and makes it $500. Wow, this is a very strong play. He leads out on the flop. He check raises on the turn to a basically min-raising sizing. I mean, I've got a 6 in my hand. He's basically representing pocket 4s or ace-6. He shouldn't really ever have aces here, given the fact that he limp called pre-flop. I'm going to make the call, see what happens on the final card, which is a jack. I don't improve to a full house. The action's over here on under the gun, and he fires out an $825 bet. This is kind of a gross spot, but I'm just not really losing to hardly any hands. Really just pocket 4s, I feel like, so it's late. Just not going to fold a hand as strong as mine. He could be betting a worse 6. He could have ace-jack or maybe even just ace-king. So I flick in the call and get shown 4-6 suited for a boat. Wow, what a cooler. 6 on the turn, giving me trips and giving him a full house. We lose a pretty big one here, cutting into my profit around $1,500 to $1,600. We are closing in on the end of this session. We bump the game to 10, 25, 50. There's 2 calls to me. I raise it to $300 on the button with ace queen offsuit, and both the limpers for $50 make the call. So already $900 plus in the middle. It's 4 a.m. It's late. Let's try to win a big one right here at the buzzer. Ace, king, 6, 2 spades. Top pair, second kicker. Both of my opponents limp called pre-flop. Don't expect them to have ace king or pocket kings or pocket aces, so I feel very confident betting here. Make it $350, looking to get called by a weaker ace, a king, gut shot straight draws, flush draws. Under the gun player, the guy who just got me 1 orbit earlier with 4-6 suited versus my king 6 suited, makes the call. Now over $1,500 in the middle to an ace on the turn, giving me trips now. My opponent checks, and look, when you got a good hand, you just want to bet it. I don't really want to get too tricky here. I don't want to check back. I still think I can get called by a king, weaker aces. I want to deny equity from flush draws. $675 to go. Now, if I get called again by this opponent, I may slow down just because he has been a little bit on the tighter side this last couple hours, and he does call pretty quickly, so I'm slightly concerned, and especially now when the 7 of spades comes on the river for the flush, he checks. I check back, and not going to win this one. Pocket 6s for a full house. Another cooler full house versus trips at the end of the night to lose another big pot against the same opponent who got me earlier, 4-6 versus king 6. I end up being stuck on this night. I was up around 4,000, end up winning around $700 on this Thursday night session. The next day was Friday. I slept in, waking up a little bit under the weather. Could have been the 11-hour poker session I played the night before, or maybe the coolers I sustained. Either way, I decided to take Friday completely off. No poker, no gym, just relaxing. Took the dogs on a nice long walk, and then let them play around at the dog park. After a recovery Friday, I woke up on Saturday to get ready for my second game of the week. This time it's 10:25. Made myself some breakfast and also caught up on the new Joe Rogan podcast with former President Donald Trump. Probably not a great idea to get too political because this is a poker blog. However, I do think it's amazing that someone like Joe Rogan, someone who came from the complete bottom, didn't have any followers like 11, 12 years ago, a Fear Factor host, a UFC commentator, has built up his platform. Now he has the former president, potential future president on for a 3-hour interview and gets over 16 million views in less than 24 hours. And it's growing by the hour. Now you can compare that to ABC where they did the debate, Harris versus Trump. The debate got 14 million views and it's been about a month now. So the debate compared to Joe Rogan's podcast, Joe Rogan is blowing them away. Now, of course, the debate was watched on TV, not just on YouTube, but Joe Rogan also has Spotify and other areas that people are watching. I just find it insane. I find it really cool that content creators like Joe Rogan, like myself, can just grow exponentially. It's kind of motivating to me that if I just keep with it and keep putting out good content, hopefully that people like to enjoy and like to watch, that I can just keep growing. You never know how big you can get. I mean, I'm sure Joe Rogan didn't think 10 years ago that he would have millions and millions of people tuning in to just watch him talk to another guy. I find it pretty crazy. But yeah, that's enough political talk. Let's get back to the poker. After missing the gym for a couple days, I tried to get out here and run a 10-minute mile. Still feeling slightly under the weather, but we completed it. Now back inside. It's game time. Got to kiss the dogs goodbye. It's somewhat of a ritual. I give them a kiss and then tell them, hey, it's time for Dad to try to make some money. We'll see if that happens tonight, playing a bigger game. 10.25 no limit tonight with a $6,000 max buy-in. After having a successful 5-10 game for a few months, I wanted to expand, but I wanted it to be a little bit different. So now on the weekends here at Coconut Creek, I'll be running a 10.25 game, a little bit deeper stacks, allow players to buy in deeper, play some bigger pots, and tonight there is definitely some bigger pots. I buy in for $6,000, a lot of money on the table, and of course, I get NYY delivered to the table for all the players. Today, I went with the roasted chicken, rice, and vegetables on the side. Stomach is full. We're ready to play some poker, and I get into a pretty fun spot right off the bat where there's a raise to 75. I call with Queen Jack suited in the cutoff, and now the big blind player bumps it here to 375. Initial raiser calls 375, I call 375, and the small blind calls 375. So just like that, we're already playing a 3-bet, 4-way pot here. $1,500 in the middle. Queen Jack of spades. What's a good board for Queen Jack of spades? How about ace of spades, king of spades, 10 of diamonds? I flop the nuts with a royal flush draw. Also, the thing that makes this so great is that this is a 3-bet pot. This should coordinate very well with the big blind who made it 375, but unfortunately he checks on this board. Well, multi-way with the nuts. I just want to start building this pot. I make it $400. Small blind folds, and the big blind who made it 375 makes the call. I think a lot of the time when he check calls here, he's going to have pocket queens or pocket jacks. I think he would bet aces or kings or ace king or pocket tens on the flop. So when the turn card comes to complete brick, 4 of diamonds, and he checks over to me, I actually decide to get tricky and trappy here and check this one back, thinking that I want to try to get value on the river. I have the board completely locked up with the nuts and the nut flush draw as well. So I decide to check, and the final card is the 7 of spades, now giving me the nut flush. Big blind checks to me again. I fire out a $1,000 bet, and just what I thought. He probably had queens or jacks. He looks a little frustrated and folds his cards, and we take down the first pot here on Saturday night.
Time, so you probably thought he was.
He always,
I didn't say
he
one
always
time.
goes once.
I never said one. I never said one. Not you.
Steve, not everything's about you.
Should be. My site's gonna have 500,000 followers. Not this fucking. You love it when he's not
Every other dealer we've been doing a round of straddles, so now it's 10, 25, 50. I raise king 9 of hearts to 150. I get a call from the button and a call from Steve in the straddle. Flop is 9 high, I bet 325. Button makes the call and Steve makes the call. These pots are getting big. Turn 5 of hearts, bringing me a flush draw and top pair 9 kicker. Given the fact that there was a spade flush draw on the flop and nobody raised me, nobody re-raised me pre-flop, I don't think anyone has an overpair. I don't think anyone has 2 pair or a set, so I'm just going to continue to bet here on this turn card. I make it $450 to go. Button pretty quickly calls, and Steve in the straddle makes to fold. Final card is a good one for me, Jack of Hearts, giving me the second nuts. I think my opponent could have a hand like Jack 10, could have made top pair, also could just have a 9 and not want to fold. So instead of betting super big here with the second best hand you can get, I just bet a sizing. I'm hoping he'll call with a 1 pair hand or a top pair hand, 575. Over here on the button, who flicks in the call. King 9 of hearts for the second nuts is going to be good. And another decent pot going my way. After last night being up stuck around $3,000 or $4,000, it's nice here to start out with a decent win, being up around $2K so far on the night. This next hand is one of the wilder hands that I've seen in my game. 1025, 2 calls, $200 raise by me with pocket king. Small blind calls $200, big blind calls $200. First limper calls, second limper calls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways, $200, $1,000 in the middle with pocket kings. What could possibly go wrong? 6, 8, 9 with 2 hearts. Whew, This is just not the best board for pocket king. Small blind checks, big blind checks. First limper, who is Steve. Steve is the guy I won that 25K pot off of when I had 5-4 offsuit and he had 10-3 suited. He decides to lead out on this board for $500. The player to his left calls $500, and to be honest, my hand could just be a fold, but Steve sometimes does some crazy things. Could be doing this with second pair, could be doing this with straight draws, and the other player could just have a pair or a straight draw as well. I don't want to let go of my hand just yet, so I make the call for $500. Now the action here on the small blind, who looks back at his cards and ships it all in for around $1,000. Now the action's on the big blind, and he has not folded yet. He announces all in as well for $4,000. Back over to Steve, and he announces all in for $7,000. The player to his left goes all in as well, and there's 4 all-ins in front of me. Small blind, big blind, limper, all go all in. This pot is huge, but I have a pretty easy fold now with pocket kings.
You said all in also?
What's going on, bro?
Where's the nut flush? You have the nut flush? I have the second nut.
You have the second nuts
With an open
right
end.
now?
Yeah, good to go, right?
Once, right?
One time? Fuck, I was afraid of that. Oh.
Jesus
Somebody's got it
Christ.
straight already.
What the fuck is going on? Just to summarize here, this is over a $20,000 pot. Steve in the middle's got king 7 of hearts for an open-ended and flush draw. The player to his left has got the ace high flush draw. The small blind and the big blind have yet to show their cards, but pretty sure they're ahead of ace high and king high. Over $20,000 in the middle. This is the second biggest pot that has ever happened at my game. There's one card to come. Let's see who's going to get lucky and win this massive pot.
Yes! I got it.
I got it straight. With 7.
Wow! Wow! Finally, luck.
Oh my God, Steve. Sick.
Good guys.
You covered them.
5 on the river, giving Steve a straight. He was up against top set. The ace high flush draw hit the miracle final card to win over a $20,000 pot. Hey, the guy deserves it. He lost the biggest pot that has ever happened in this game just about a month and a half ago against me when he had 2 pair What a sick, sick hand that was. Many hours have passed now since that hand. There's a raise to 75. Steve 3-bets the button to 200. I cold 4-bet 8-9 suited out of the big blind to 600 just because I'm bored and I want to get in there. Steve makes the call. We're heads up to 10-6-4 with one club. I got a gut shot straight draw, and I can get him to fold out some king queens, some ace jack, some ace queen type of hands. So I make it 325, and he ends up making the call. Turn cards is 6, pairing the board. Do I want to continue to try to bluff Steve? Once he calls to flop, he probably has a pair. I don't think he's folding, so I check and give up, and he checks back. River card's an 8, now giving me a pair. Don't think my hand wants to bet. I could possibly get called by maybe a 4 or pocket 7s, but I just check over to him, potentially allowing him to bluff some missed draws as well. And he checks back, and my 8 is good.
I know a bunch of swear
Oh,
words and all
fuck!
like Russian.
You fuck!
Suka.
You fuck!
Bitch.
Super. When he checked, I should have fucking bet.
Steve, if you would have bet, I would have snapped cold faster than you make coffee in the morning. All right, next hand, I raise to 75. Button calls, small blind calls, 3 ways with ace 10 offsuit to ace 2 8. Rainbow, top pair, decent kicker. When it checks to me, I bet 125. Only the button makes the call. Turn 2. Heads up now, I bet 450, and the button calls again. River 5, I slow down and check, and now he fires out a $900 bet. I gotta say, I don't really like this spot. If I think it through, though, he really shouldn't have ace-queen or ace-king. Definitely not ace-king. I think he would re-raise that hand pre-flop. Probably doesn't have ace-queen. Would probably re-raise that pre-flop on the button also. I don't think he's betting ace-jack here for this sizing. I just don't think he would be doing that. So either he's bluffing or he's got some full house like ace-2 or pocket 8s or maybe ace-5. I don't really lose to many hands. There aren't too many bluffs he could have, but against somewhat of an unknown player, don't have too much history with him. Definitely think it's possible he could be bluffing here. I think my hand's too strong, so I just make the call. It's around 3 o'clock in the morning, too. Don't like folding top pair. And turns out I'm wrong. He's got ace-2 offsuit for 2 pair on the flop and boat on the turn. I lose a big one, and this ends up being the last one of the night.
Hey, get back in here. Come on. Come on.
All right, guys, that is it for this one. A 2-part poker vlog, a long weekend. I've got little River here beside me. She's helping me with the outro. Thursday night, 5-10, ended up winning $700. Tonight, Saturday night, 10-25, 10-25, 50, ended up losing $2,500. I didn't really show too many losses, so you might be somewhat confused how I lost $2,500. Well, 2 bomb pots kind of got me pretty good. 2 PLO double board bomb pots. We do a $1,500 cap on these bomb pots, meaning you can only put in $1,500 of your stack. If you got 10K, you can only put in $1,500. That keeps people from going too crazy and getting too crushed, but still $1,500 still kind of hurts a little bit, and I lost 2 of them tonight. I got scooped in 2 bomb pots. I didn't really play my best in those, so lost $2,500 tonight. A little unfortunate, obviously, when you put together a game and the lineup's good and the stacks are deep. You would love to run good. You love to cooler some people and have something. Excuse you. Sorry. You'd love to run good and stack some people and cooler some people or whatever, but that just wasn't in the cards tonight. That pocket kings hand was sick. 4-way all-in, $20,000+ pot, and Steve finds the offsuit 5 on the river, comes from behind, gets it in terrible. He gets it in with king high versus the ace high flush draw versus a set, and he somehow finds it and scoops the second biggest pot of my games here. Special shout out to Seminole Casino Coconut Creek for allowing me to put on these games, and also the staff, the waitresses, the dealers. Obviously, everything there has been great. We've been getting NYY Steakhouse delivered to the table, and it's been pretty awesome. Obviously, if you guys want to play some games there with me, send me an email at lexopoker@gmail.com. The Thursday game has been great. Basically, every single week, 5-10 with a 5-10-25. I wanted to try to expand on the weekend because I had a little bit of interest, and also I just want to continue to expand and continue to run hopefully good games that people enjoy. So the weekend game is going to be a little bit bigger. Like I said, we're doing 1025, 6K buy-in. There will be straddles as well. So basically double the size of the Thursday game. I just wanted it to be a little bit different. I didn't want to just run another 5-10 game and have people be, you know, competing on who plays what day's better. I wanted to have 2 separate games so that maybe it's 2 different kind of player pools, 2 different kinds of player types. And, you know, that's basically what I've been trying to do here on the weekend. And so far, it has been pretty good. A little bit longer one today, 2-part. I'll be back next week. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you.